We're at a cafe. Our schedules finally aligned and we meet up at last. You have your iced matcha and I have my oat milk latte. Maybe we even have a blueberry cheesecake that we'll be sharing for the next 3 hours. We could finally catch up after such a long time. Then instead of hearing about you, or how you've been, or what you're up to lately, all I hear about is your boyfriend. Do you know how much willpower it takes not to reach across the table, hold your hand, and tell you what you need to hear? No one cares about him. I don't care that his rich aunt is in Dubai for the weekend. I don't care if this is the 77th time you got him liking a random girl's thirst trap because, girl, you should probably break up with him by now, if that's the case. And I definitely don't give a fuck how good he fucks in detail. That info's for you, not for me. Please release me from that. And you know what? It's not all that. I've seen him on your story more than I see your face on it, and I've listened to you yap about him a million times already, as if he's the main character of our friendship. I say, how are you? And somehow we're back to him in 2.5 seconds. Like, what about you? I want to hear about you. Hi, I'm Sanra, and this isn't a guide to men video. I just happen to have some thoughts today. This is something I've noticed in conversations with some women, and it's not even about being boy crazy in an immature way. And here's the thing. I didn't really notice it immediately either, which is kind of absurd because I've been experiencing this for a pretty long time. But I guess when something keeps happening and you finally get sick of it, of course you're gonna clock it one way or another. So somehow you're just talking with your friend, and no matter what the topic is, it goes back to a man, a boyfriend, a situationship, someone she hooked up with, or someone she used to talk to and now cringes at, as if he's permanently sitting in the room with us. I'm across the table thinking, why is he here again? Because at first you brush it off, right? Like maybe she just has a lot of going on with him right now, but no. This has happened to me in a lot of female friendships, and it just kept happening. And while I love hanging out with girls I click with, it just gets disappointing when suddenly that's all they can talk about. He wasn't even invited to the chat, and he RSVP. Like, this isn't some fucking open house. Why are you here? So looking back on those friendships, and I don't even like admitting this, maybe because I didn't want to admit how many times I kept experiencing the same thing over and over again, but most of those friendships actually fell through. It turns out it wasn't a genuine connection between humans. There was another human in between our connection. And that's why the friendship didn't survive the test of time, because it only had so much depth. For centuries, women's identity was shaped around men for survival, status, security, even social worth. Yes, there were nations that historically had women with autonomy, like ancient Egypt and pre-colonial Philippines, but a lot of prominent countries actually had patriarchal societies where marriage and childbearing are what makes a woman. You're a wife, a daughter, and a mother. Nothing more. And I guess that wiring doesn't just disappear because we're no longer in the Regency era or the Qing dynasty or the 1950s. We didn't wake up one day and just undo all of that without a second thought. So going back to the present, it just sort of evolved and mutated, but it didn't fully leave. Now it just shows up in more casual ways, in small everyday ways that feel normal, rather than outright talking about a marital future. Now it shows up in pretty contrasting ways in this very modern time. There's the obvious version, the woman who'll tell you straight up she doesn't get along with other girls, that she's one of the boys, or that women is just too dramatic. You know the type. It's not hard to miss. And from where I live, I've seen this way more when I was younger, but it's not like it disappeared in the 2020s either. But then there's the version that actually caught me off guard, because she doesn't present that way at all. She loves her girls, and she's all about women supporting women. Until another girl walks in, who's prettier, smarter, funnier, or just more. And suddenly there's this internal competition going inside of her. And then when you sit down with this girl, every conversation still ends up being about a man anyway. And whether it's pick-me or a performative feminist, I think we've somehow centered a man at some point or even a phase in our lives without even realizing it. I may have even done it. Even something as small as asking, do you have a boyfriend, as your opener that shit counts. Because why is that the first thing that you think is interesting about her to begin with, out of everything she is? And I guess that's where it stops being just a conversation habit, because if we zoom out for a second, then we'll see this. How differently men exist in women's lives versus how women exist in men's. The dynamic isn't even equal. Even feminism didn't cure that. You ever notice how often that question comes up?
So, do you have a boyfriend? Are you seeing anyone right now? What are you looking for in a man?
It's like the default way people try to understand you. And I know I'm not the only one who experienced this in workplaces, in new environments, even in family settings. You talk for a bit, and the moment it gets personal, that's the first thing they reach for. And to be fair, it's not just women. Men do it too. I just noticed that they kind of tiptoe around it more, but the second they feel like they have some kind of access to you, that's the $1,000,000 question. But why is that the entry point? Why is that the thing that defines whether someone finds you interesting? Out of everything else you could ask about a person. And men don't even do this to each other. They'll talk about what they're into, what they're working on. Cars, video games, work, getting high, and the girlfriend just comes up, eventually. She's part of his life, but never the center of it. Never the subject that everything loops back to. But for a lot of women, it's the opposite. Yes. Yes, it is. Instead of this man just entering your life starts organizing itself around him. The boyfriend becomes the main character, and it's so insufferable, I can't even make this up. I have this friend who got a boyfriend a few months after getting out of her long-term relationship, and at first when they broke up, all she could talk about was her ex, and I gave her the benefit of the doubt, because a breakup is a breakup, you mourn it. But the next time we caught up, it was the same thing. Now it's a new boyfriend, but I got the same level of details and the same constant little updates about the smallest things that I don't need to know, that other people don't need to know. I feel like I've been emotionally introduced against my will. Like, I already know this man before I've even met him, and at this point, I hope I never do. And honestly, she's not even the only person I've seen do this, and I'm not just casually talking about men, okay? Let's make that clear. We can talk about men all day and move on to something else. But if in every conversation, every life update, every time we text, every story, every repost, everything that comes out of your mouth involves a man, it's exhausting to be in the receiving end. It's exhausting and annoying, but also a little concerning. Like, wait, so where are you in all of this? Because babe, it's one thing to have a relationship and another to build your entire identity around it. After seeing this happen so many times, I've seen that there are two very different ways that women move through relationships. We have women whose lives slowly start to orbit around a man, that insufferable spiral of everything including him. Her stories involve him, her decisions consider him, even how she sees herself starts shifting depending on the relationship. The boyfriend becomes the structure, the emotional structure, the routine, the validation source, sometimes even the personality. It becomes this whole thing of outsourcing your sense of self to another person instead of just sharing a life with someone. And then there's another way this can look. There are women who date, who fall in love, get into relationships, and their life is still their own. You talk to them and you hear about their work, their opinions, their ideas, what they're working on, what they're building, what show they're currently obsessed with, and why. The boyfriend still comes up, but it's not the only thing there is. You know, and as your friend, I'm very happy, I'm elated that he fits into your life and doesn't end up defining it. And I also want to address something that I think is really important. If you've come this far in the video and find yourself getting defensive, babe, I'm not attacking you. I'm saying this because it might be affecting your relationships outside of your boyfriend more than you think. And not just because I want you to shut up. But yeah, part of it is because I'm literally the one listening to this and I'm sick and tired of it, even if I love you. In fact, that's hanging in the balance. This pattern matters a lot, even more than you think, because it has a cost. Surprise, it has a cost. It always does. You might find yourself in shallow conversations and maybe even leave one without even bothering to ask how the other person is. Yeah, you haven't asked me how I am yet. Let's be real for a second. Sometimes the man himself is not exactly revolutionary. Half the time, he's just some random guy named Josh. No offense to Josh, but a lot of times, it is a Josh. Or some guy whose name starts with a J. is about what having him means, what it says about you. Like now you're wanted, you're chosen, you're lovable, that somebody can be with you. And if you're not used to giving that to yourself, of course you're going to keep looking for it from someone else. I think that's how women somehow end up in these dependency loops. Your mood depends on them, your confidence, your sense of self. It all depends whether someone is there. And without it, everything feels a little empty. And I don't even say that with malice, never. I think a lot of women are taught to build themselves through being wanted before they ever learn how to build themselves alone. As I said, this video isn't about men. It's not even about men versus women in relationships, or never talking about your boyfriend, or pretending he doesn't exist. It's about whether he's the only thing that exists when you speak. Like, who are you without a relationship? For real, who are you? Not just your quirks or what you thought about the controversial TikTok you saw the other day, or the way the goal is to get rich and hot sometimes. Who's the main character of your life? Because who are you when there's no one to reflect you back to yourself? If the answer somehow isn't you, that's a whole ass problem. Well, I guess I hope he's doing well. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but also, am I? I don't know, I just think it's a little scary and concerning when you stop existing outside of relationships and start building your identity around being with somebody else before you know it. And honestly, maybe this whole video is just me processing years of sitting across cafe tables, fighting for my life, trying to hear one original thought that didn't include a man named Jason, or Josh, or Michael, Matthew, Johnny. I don't know. I'm just naming random people at this point. So, anyway, if you like these little identity spirals disguised as casual conversations, you'll probably see more of it from me here. Just overanalyzing things that could have been left alone. But this topic today, I can't leave it alone anymore. See you in the next one.